these guys, and why are they so good?
Mike Mayock did a phenomenal job. They killed the draft.
One of the best drafts of anybody
There's
out
one
there.
obligation that comes with leadership.
Might be the greatest draft class that we've seen in the last 10 years.
He's a dynamic football player that makes us better.
You know it's going to be unlike any other draft that we've ever seen.
This guy fits everything that they absolutely need on the defensive side. The guy's absolutely ridiculous.
He can add some explosion to Jon Gruden offense.
It's a new beginning.
You want to be a Raider?
Welcome to the Raiders 2020 Draft Special, brought to you by Modelo, brewed for those with a fighting spirit. I'm your host, Nicole Zaloumis, obviously broadcasting from a very different location than I'd like to, my house. But while the location has changed, the content and the cast of characters have not. Joining me, as you can see, I'm flanked by two Pro Bowlers and former Raiders, Lincoln Kennedy and Marcel Reece. It's nice to see your bright and happy faces, and I know why you're happy, because we're talking Raider football. Lincoln, this is like a walk in the park for you with all the radio that you do from your home.
Well, it is, but I welcome you guys. It's good to see you both, Nicole and Marcel, and I'm excited about this draft. I'm excited to see what the Raiders do, and then the new additions to the family. If they can make as big of an impact as the rookie class did last year, this is going to be a very good season for the Raiders.
Marcel, I think that we should place a bet on whose kids are going to interrupt the broadcast first. It's great to see that you're doing well.
Oh, Nicole, Lincoln, it is awesome to see two familiar faces and to be talking some football. This is amazing to have some normality to our lives in this crazy time and bizarre time in the world right now. But I think my bet's on my kids. My two are a little wild and a little stir crazy right now, just like everyone else. But it's fun to talk some football and look forward to this draft.
Well, and the Raiders gave us plenty to talk about. So many moves during the offseason. When we look at the free agent acquisitions, Lincoln, who stands out to you the most?
Look at the defensive line additions. Carter Nassib at defensive end gives them a nice rotation at both defensive tackle and defensive end. And that rotation is going to help keep a lot of guys fresh, especially in the fourth quarter. More importantly, they're going to be able to apply some pressure on the quarterbacks of this division and around the league.
Marcel, obviously a defensive overhaul, not to mention you bring in a new coach, a defensive line coach in Rod Marinelli. What stands out to you?
Nicole, you just said it. It goes under the radar when you add a position coach during free agency, but Rod Marinelli is a phenomenal coach. He puts his imprint on every defense he's been a part of. It's almost like having another head coach on your defense and on your team. It's going to be phenomenal to see what he can bring to this defense and how it unfolds as the season comes together.
So now let's look ahead to the draft. In the first round, the Raiders have picks number 12 and number 19. Lincoln, where do you expect them to go at 12?
Well, I know this might seem a little strange, but I think 12 and 19 are somewhat with no man's land. Why not make a big impact and use those picks to trade up with a team like Detroit and go after cornerback Jeff Okudah? He's a shutdown corner, great on the perimeter, good tackling corner. I think he would be a great addition to this defense.
Marcel, do you expect them to stay at 12 and 19?
See, I'm just like Lincoln, where I don't expect him to stay at number 12. I wouldn't personally stay at number 12, but I would do it in a different way. I would move up. I would move down from number 12 because it is that no man's land area. And what I would do is I would get as much value from that number 12 pick as possible, because we don't have any picks from 32 down to 62, and that is that sweet spot where you could get a ton of value from the player, and that's where, you know, the 2019 draft class really made a huge impact on our team.
Well, this is a historic draft that we find ourselves in because it's the first ever virtual draft. So coaches and GMs are scrambling right now, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the athletes, the players, what's going on in their mind. I know both of you had very different journeys to the NFL. Lincoln, you were a highly touted first rounder, while Marcel, you went undrafted. So Marcel, think about these kids and what they must be going through, not being able to make that lasting impression in venues that they normally would have leading up to the draft.
Yeah, Nicole, that's huge, especially for myself. And you know, it's personal to me because if I were in a virtual draft like this is right now, I feel like the players in my position that weren't invited to the combine, that are going to go undrafted, are affected the most. Because if I didn't have my pro day and guys weren't, the scouts and GMs weren't able to come to the University of Washington in beautiful Seattle, where both Lincoln and I know about, to the Dempsey Indoor Center to see me, myself, at 232 pounds, run a 4.38 40, they wouldn't believe how fast I was. They wouldn't believe how explosive I was. So they were able to see me in person. And also the pre-draft visits. My pre-draft visit to Oakland to see Mr. Al Davis was huge for me. That was when he told me to my face that I would be a Raider, and he was able to see me as a person, as a man, to see my character. I think those players who aren't as highly rated in that first and second round and third round, they will be affected the most because coaches, GMs, and scouts aren't able to see them in person and shake their hand, to see them as young men, to know that from a personal advantage. I think they're going to be affected the most during this virtual time in the NFL.
Lincoln, how would this have affected your stock?
Well, coming into the draft, I was highly touted, and I figured I was going to go high, so I don't know if it would per se affected me, but I did get a lot out of my pro day, like Reece mentioned. Because my wrist was broken when I went to the combine, I didn't perform at the combine, so my pro day was important. So in this day and age, you have a lot of guys who miss out, or maybe even have a chance to do better than they did at their combine performance. But you know what? The fact is, guys, is that the whole draft over the last couple of years has become such a big spectacle. Guys just want to get out there and play football. And I know this is going to be different. A lot of guys are going to miss out on wearing the crazy suits or showing off when they're going up to the chest bump the commissioner or something like that. But the fact is, let's just get down to the brass tacks. Guys are here to play football. The draft is where you pick names, you choose guys to go to certain teams around the league, and that's what it's about, and that's ultimately what it will be.
Well, I have a feeling we might see some guys wearing those crazy suits. They'll just be sitting on their living room couch. There's a lot more to come here on the Raiders 2020 Draft Special. Another former Raider, ESPN college football and NFL analyst Louis Riddick joins us, so don't go anywhere.
And it's intercepted once more by Littleton to the end zone. And there's a sack by Torrey Littleton. Prescott fires, pass is caught. What a catch for the touchdown. Jason Witten.
You can really add some great synergy within that offense, bringing in a guy like Jason Witten.
Going to be a safety, I believe, as Mike Boone is tackled in the end zone by Nick Kwiatkowski.
Brady's only been sacked once today, make it twice. Malik Collins gets home.
Come back. There's Malik Collins with the sack.
An impressive free agent class brought in by GM Mike Mayock and head coach Jon Gruden. Joining us now, program former Raider and ESPN college football and NFL draft analyst Louis Riddick. Louis, thank you so much for taking the time, and it's great to see that you're doing well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks a lot. Considering the circumstances, we're all hanging in there.
Well, and it's great to talk some football. When you look at the free agency the Raiders had, they were pretty active. What stood out to you?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, on the defensive side, they needed to address the second level of defense. So going out and getting guys like Littleton and Kwiatkowski at linebacker, I mean, those are going to be two key acquisitions because they need better playmakers there. They need more speed. They need more size. And Corey Littleton's one of the best coverage linebackers in the league. Nick is one of those guys who, I thought he would have maybe made a bigger impact when he was with the Bears, but he didn't. But that's fine. I mean, so now he's in a different place, different scenery, so maybe things turn out a little bit better. And so it's very interesting how they did in free agency. I like what they've done. I like a lot of the things Mike's done since he took over there as the GM, and I don't think anything will be any different with this draft.
Louis, how difficult and speaking of the draft and making the transition, how difficult is it for general managers or people, scouts, to get a true look at today, these college kids after they come out? You know how some guys get ready for the combine and then they test in the combine and do their thing. But usually between that time of the combine and the draft, this is when GMs and scouts actually try to get closer to get kind of characters. How difficult is it under the current time?
It's tough, Lincoln. I mean, there's nothing like having face-to-face contact with guys, although you still have to kind of weed through the BS at this time of year because everybody's so coached up. People are giving you pre-scripted answers. It's hard to get at the authentic individual at this point in time. I mean, the best coaches still are able to do it because you're able to disarm guys and just get them to show you who they really are. I think the way it's going right now, even though you can't get some of the last minute medical and character checks that you need and that are important, I think the most seasoned GMs and the people who have the most common sense and really who are people, meaning they're great at relationships, they're going to excel anyway. I think the big question is, like everyone's been asking, just make sure my internet doesn't go down. Make sure that my dog doesn't kick my surge protector and knock out all my stuff. My kids don't come flying in there when I'm on the clock. Those are the things I think guys are really worried about more so than anything.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? Louis, I don't know if you saw earlier this week, but Mike Mayock was called a virtual GM of the entire league. How much do you think his history and experience working at the network is going to help with this virtual draft?
Yeah, well, I think he's just comfortable with, really relying on technology. Although I think a lot of the guys in the league, most of these teams set ups in their offices anyway. A lot of these guys have very sophisticated computer systems and data entry systems, so they're used to all that. So I don't think it'll really bother them. I don't know if it necessarily gives Mike an advantage or not. I really do think, though, that right now the guys who will have an advantage are the GMs who have constructed personnel staffs that have the most experience, who really have great contacts at colleges that give them real good information when they go in there for school calls. And they're not just meeting with college liaisons or NFL liaisons who are really charged with giving you basic info just to get you in and get you out of there as an area scout. Next thing you know, you find out, well, every single guy can't come from a two-parent family home and have a great background and never miss class. And not every guy's perfect. So you really need the guys who are great private eyes, so to speak. I think those are really going to be the ones who have the advantage when things kick off here in a couple of days.
Louis, the draft is really deep with wide receivers, and the Raiders might be in position with 12 and 19 to maybe get one of those receivers. Yeah. Who do you like and why?
Yeah, I think for me, without a doubt, it starts with Jerry Jeudy from Alabama. I mean, Lincoln, this guy will absolutely just make you tear both ACLs, rupture an Achilles, and twist an ankle trying to adjust to the kind of things he runs his route. He runs his routes a lot like, quite honestly, like Jerry Rice did. Everything is full speed. He comes off the line. He's up to top speed very quickly. At the move point, at the break point, I mean, he very rarely loses speed at those times. So when you see him run double moves, sharp comebacks, post corner routes, I mean, those things, you just see college DBs like, hey, I have no shot, none. Outside, CeeDee Lamb from Oklahoma is a great run after catch player. Played in a little bit unorthodox offense at Oklahoma as far as what they do. But with the ball in his hands, he's like Amari Cooper when he came out. He's like a running back. So he's fantastic too. I mean, Henry Ruggs from Alabama is just a blazer. I mean, he's just got the kind of speed that just makes you back off. So, I mean, T. Higgins is a tall, long, lanky guy who's faster than I think his 40 times suggests. Another high riser. Michael Pittman from USC, another one of those guys who's a combination of both. I mean, you got whatever you want in this draft at wide receiver. There's so many different shapes and sizes. I mean, and that's through like the first 3 rounds, you can get really good guys. So I think you're sitting pretty if you're looking for one.
So you're not concerned if they take a wide receiver high. Do you expect them to stay at 12 and 19 in the first round?
Yeah, I think they're right at a real interesting spot because I think, right there at 12, and then behind them at 13, I think those are the spots between them and San Francisco. Those are the spots where I think people start thinking, well, is that a spot we need to get to if we want to draft maybe the 4th quarterback as far as Jordan Love is concerned? Is that where we need to get to? I don't think they will, but who knows? I think that area between them and San Francisco right there at 12 and 13 is where there's going to be some action. Vegas sits there. I think they're going to get a great player. I really do. And then, but there will be some interesting talks, I'm sure, around that spot for maybe a team wanting to move in there. Who knows who's going to come up maybe from the bottom quarter of the draft and maybe want to get into that area if they have their eye on someone in particular. So they'll either get a good player or they'll move out, get some picks, and still take advantage of what is a very deep draft across basically all positions.
Well, Louis, I really appreciate you joining us today, and I know that you're a valuable part of the Raider Nation. You love the Raider Nation as well, just as much as I do. What kind of words can you say to a lot of the fans that are listening and watching now?
Yeah, man, look, I mean, there's nothing more unique and more prideful than wearing the silver and black. I mean, Lincoln, you know that. I wore it for a short amount of time, and just in that short amount of time, man, it's something that's been imprinted on me forever. I mean, you can see it right behind me. I mean, it's right there. I mean, that's the only uniform that I wore that I actually had encased because it was special. Mr. Davis was special. I feel for Oakland because those people are special out there, and they embraced me and my family when I was there. But, hey, just keep cheering on the silver and black because I think they're on the right track. And Vegas, you're lucky on that. You're lucky. You got a great team coming your way.
Well, as we know, the silver and black fans span across the globe. So during this challenging time, I'm sure it's great to see familiar faces like yours, Louis Riddick, talking
Sure.
about the Raider Nation. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Don't go anywhere. There's a lot more to come here on the Raiders 2020 Draft Special.
Penalty flag on the play. Pass is caught. That's Ingold, the fullback, for the touchdown.
Welcome back to the Raiders 2020 Draft Special. Fullback Alec Ingold was one of the many standouts in the 2019 Raiders rookie class, in a position that doesn't get a lot of credit. Marcel Reece catches up with Alec now.
Thanks, Nicole. Listen, I am joined right now with someone who is extremely special to me personally, the new 4-5 fullback for your Raiders, Alec Ingold. Little bro, what's going on?
So it's good to be here, man. It's good to see your face.
Man, it is good to see your face, another familiar face in this crazy time in the world right now. How are you holding up? How's the family?
Family's good. Everyone's safe. You know, we're all doing our part. I think, you know, we took it pretty seriously early on. So
yeah,
just getting in that routine and that vibe of being able to kind of maintain what you're doing and staying within the rules, playing by the rules like everyone else. It's been good so far.
Absolutely. I hear you. Well, listen, one break and one piece of good news that we all have right now is football. We have the draft coming up. You are just 365 days from being a part of the 2019 draft class. With this virtual time right now, how do you feel that your draft process or guys like you in this 2020 draft are going to be affected? Because just like myself, you were undrafted and you had to put in that hard work to grind to get where you are right now. How do you think the guys like us are going to be affected this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been talking to some of my boys from Wisconsin, just how they're doing, and staying in contact with them. A lot of them are saying it's a blessing in disguise, a little silver lining with being around their family right now. You know, no one can really be out. You aren't training in Phoenix at Exos or anything like that. People are with their families. So I think being able to maintain that priority level of everything kind of is slowing the world, to kind of sit back and realize what's important to you, what's important to your family, is going to help a lot of these guys out with their decisions. You know, not everyone just gets picked. You know, you got to make that decision of where you're going to go and who you're going to be with. So kind of this time of being with the people that are most important to you, I think it's going to help a lot of guys with that decision process.
That's a pretty good point there. A different perspective to look at it. It's just as a blessing in disguise. You get to be with your family and people around you who love you and don't have to worry about all the chaos around you and the circus, as they call it, around you. And you just get to worry about football. So let's talk about you. You come in as an undrafted free agent and you flat out put your mark on that team right away. Now, I saw from the jump, but a lot of people didn't see it, didn't know what was going to happen. Have you had time to reflect on your rookie season as a Raider?
I think, you know, that's a tough line to draw. Went through the whole draft process and going undrafted. I kind of had to internalize some demons I had with the whole process and really decide who I wanted to be for this next year. So I think just kind of waking up to that fact of this is a career I want to make and I want to play for a long time. You know, it's pushed me to kind of learn from the guys in front of me, learn from the veterans in the room, and just kind of pick their brains. So the best, you know, I can describe it as is, you know, a lot of the guys have been telling me, you know, rookie year is great. You know, you have a little asterisk by your name when you're performing as a rookie, and they say once that asterisk is removed, now you're just in the league, and now you just got to play. So I think kind of removing all of those little titles and names, and now you're just an NFL football player. I think that's been a great motivator for me, just being able to understand, you know, there's more steps to be made, there's more gains to be had. Because there's no more asterisks by your name. There's no more rookie. There's no more all rookie team. It's just all pro. And that's just what it is now. So I think just staying motivated and understanding that, you know, all those ties are kind of being released from you, and you just got to play ball now, I think is something I try to take from the veterans in the room.
You know, the fullback position, you know, one of the greatest coaches I ever had, you have right now, in Coach Tom Cable. And I'm sure he's told you this before, and he told me all the time that a fullback is a pseudo guard. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't worry about getting the ball, not worry about the glory of anything, just literally wanting to do anything for your team. What has that sacrifice been like to you?
I mean, so far, I feel like just understanding from the top down. So we have, Coach Gruden, Coach Ole, Coach Cable, and Coach Kirby Wilson, everyone being on the same mindset and the same page. Being able to have coaches in your corner that dictate what your job means to the play and understanding how important that role is, man, that's what gets me going. Listening to those meetings and being like, all right, we're going to leave you on this man. You got to get him. Like, regardless of the situation, I don't do it. You need to get it done. And obviously there's techniques to it and there's a method to the madness. But at the end of the day, having a job that needs to get done for a play to succeed, that's something where I'm going to be accountable to everybody else in the room. I'm playing for the guard. I'm playing for the quarterback. I'm playing for the running back. I'm playing for the tackle and tight end. All those techniques, they're counting on me to do my job so they can do theirs. So as long as I can be accountable to them, that's what's up.
Well, listen, Alec, I appreciate you taking the time. Keep training, keep working hard. Much love and blessings to the family. And as soon as this thing's over, I'm coming to get with you, bro.
All right, we'll get down in Vegas. It'll be great. I can't wait.
This segment has been brought to you by Allegiant, the official domestic airline of the Las Vegas Raiders.
This is Jon Gruden with the Raiders, man. How's it going?
Going, Coach. It's going good.
You want to be a Raider?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to pull the trigger, man. I'm excited to add you to this team. We are fired up. You jacked up or what?
Yes, sir.
All right, man. You're coming to Oakland.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Coach.
All right, man. Where you at?
I'm at home. My family.
Okay, I'm going to tell you the same thing I told your teammate yesterday when we took him number 4 overall. There's one obligation that comes with this pick.
What is it, Coach?
Leadership.
Yes, sir.
Can you?
All day.
You got that, right?
All day.
Trust me, you are going to be awesome in that defensive back room, and you're going to help us change this thing, okay?
Welcome back to the Raiders 2020 Draft Special, brought to you by Modelo. This is obviously such an emotional time for these young players as their dream of playing the sport that they love professionally finally becomes a reality. In his first season, Trayvon Mullen didn't take one moment for granted.
Block on the slant, incomplete. Trayvon Mullen.
Yeah, he's got some rare toughness for a guy with great coverage skills.
That was dangerous, looking for Conley. Trayvon Mullen, second-round rookie out of Clemson.
He was the brightest light of the whole thing for me. He's a tough guy. He's got a huge upside.
It's really well done by the rookie Mullen.
I mean, outstanding play.
Rewind to the 2019 NFL Draft. Trayvon Mullen, cornerback and defensive MVP for the national champion Clemson Tigers, spoke with his cousin, Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson. His big cousin's advice? Enjoy the moment because he deserves it. Since becoming a Raider,
Trayvon Mullen, DB Clemson.
Mullen has been enjoying every moment while making the most of them.
I'm going to make the plays that come to me. It might not be a drastic play and it might not be a knock your head off, but when the play come to me, I'm going to make it.
That pick is coming.
Yeah, it's coming.
It's time.
Now it's time for the defense to step up and keep the Bengals from driving the field.
Throwing. Intercepted. The rookie Mullen. Trayvon Mullen with the pick.
Oh, for sure.
Where are you going?
They stay with me for sure. Let's go, baby. Let's get it. Let's get it.
You always want to be an NFL player, and you strive hard. And when you strive hard at what you want, you can become that person.
Exaggerate the rip, okay, Trayvon?
In high school, Trayvon's talent and work ethic garnered attention in his home state of Florida, where he was ranked by ESPN as the #2 cornerback in the country. In the NFL, it's been his resiliency that has set him apart.
What a story it is for Mullen to even be playing this week. You remember a week ago against the Chargers, he was carted off the field.
He got carried off the field on a stretcher in that game. And he's ready to practice, and he's playing on the road in Denver. and he played good again.
Hit by Mullen and tackled short of the chains.
All right. Come on, man.
It just comes down to preparation. Monday through Friday, the walkthroughs, the mental days, in the meeting rooms.
Good play by the rookie from Clemson.
Number 27 hit his stride throughout the final 10 games in 2019. With 48 total tackles, 10 pass deflections, and 1 interception, he contributed to the profound impact made by an outstanding Raiders rookie class.
You know how we coming?
Which includes a few of his Clemson teammates.
Trayvon, Hunter, those guys on the team, man, it's crazy because it's like those are some of our best players. It's just trying to start something special, same way we did at Clemson.
I mean, from Clemson, we had a lot of good people, the culture. It all takes the players, start with the players first, all coming together.
A winning culture the young cornerback will continue to help implement going into his second year as a Raider. And if his rookie season is any indication of what is to come, his future looks promising. Mike Mayock said that Trayvon played really well in the second half of the season, and he believes he's going to be a starter for years to come. Lincoln, when you look at Trayvon, because you saw him up close and personal from the sidelines throughout the season, what did you see from him?
I saw a young man make the absolute best of his opportunity. 6'2", 210 pounds. He's out there on the perimeter by himself. He made some good tackles throughout the season. And as Mayock said, he got better in the second half of the season once he sort of got familiar and got his feet under him. So I think a tremendous, bright future for this young man. And I'd like him a part of this defense as well.
Marcel, what are your expectations for Trayvon moving forward?
Well, when I saw Trayvon, you saw he had the size, you saw he had the instincts, but the biggest thing that I was impressed with as far as Trayvon goes was his toughness. His toughness as a corner and his toughness as a rookie. That's something that you don't find in modern day football right now, Link, you and I both know. But his toughness was impressive. He did anything and everything that Coach Gruden and Mike Mayock asked him to do, and that's impressive. So it's going to be awesome to see how he progresses from year one to year two, after his rookie season.
Well, and it's funny because he is just one of many of an exceptional 2019 rookie class for the Raiders. Lincoln, it's like choosing your favorite child. When you look at the list here, which one stands out to you the most?
Well, guys, while we were on that world tour road schedule this season, last season, I should say, Foster Moreau came through with some key catches and some critical times for the Raiders. The Indianapolis, Minnesota, and Chicago game stands out to me mostly because there were times where they had to get in the red zone, and all the attention that was being paid to Darren Waller, Foster showcased his talents by getting open and coming up with some great catches.
Yeah, Foster was a pleasant surprise. We didn't know what to expect from the young tight end, and he made the most of his opportunity. Marcel, who comes to your mind?
Hey guys, listen, we could go up and down this list of the 2019 draft class. A draft class where I feel is probably the best draft class in the last decade in all of the NFL as far as production goes. And I'd lose a ton of credibility if I didn't mention who I feel was the offensive rookie of the year and running back Josh Jacobs.
Look, you really could choose anyone on this list and make an argument for them. And I'll say this, after interviewing them throughout the season, they're all great guys. They have a great attitude and they're buying into the system, so I look forward to seeing them develop in the silver and black. Don't go anywhere. We're just warming up here on the Raiders 2020 Draft Special. Welcome back to the Raiders 2020 Draft Special presented by Modelo. A number of Raiders have given back to those most affected by COVID-19, and Mandy and Mike Mayock are some of the most recent as they were inspired by their own family members. Mike Mayock has pledged $1,000 for every draft pick that the Raiders make. In fact, he's going to make that $1,000 pledge in the name of the newest Raider. And someone that knows Mike Mayock very well is former colleague and NFL analyst at NFL Network, Charles Davis, who joins Marcel Reece now.
Okay, thanks, Nicole. I am joined right now by a man whose eye for talent cannot be denied, someone we are all accustomed to seeing this time of year, NFL Network's draft analyst, Mr. Charles Davis, who you can also follow on Twitter at CFD22. Charles, how you doing?
I am doing well. Thank you for that awfully kind introduction. It's great to talk with you this way as opposed to beat up people and run over people when you were playing, which was awfully cool to watch during that time. Thanks a lot, Marcel.
Now, with this 2020 virtual draft, in your opinion, how is it going to affect these athletes?
Marcel, I think that the guys who have played at the schools that we watch each week on television in the bigger games are relatively unaffected because those are the schools that everyone visits, sees, goes to, etc., and probably have 2 to 3 years of reports on these guys. Guys that emerge late in the process, guys from schools that maybe you don't get to every day.
Yeah.
Sometimes that can be a little tougher because a lot of scouts teams may say, hey, in March, go by that school and check out this guy. Well, unfortunately, during this pandemic, that got wiped away. So a number of guys that may have emerged later, maybe we don't have enough information on, now you're taking more of a guessing game with them than you ever have before.
We have 2 first-round picks this year. We're going to wait on that number 12 pick. We're going to hit that one later. Right now, an unpopular pick that you have right now for us at 19 is Ross Blacklock, defensive tackle out of TCU. What is your thought process and evaluation process, not just for Ross Blacklock as a player, but for us as the Raiders bringing him into the fold?
Just continued interior pressure that the league loves and quarterbacks hate, okay? And this is a kid that comes out of a program that I know that Mike and John have a ton of respect for, and that's Gary Patterson and TCU. So that's big, right? Because they respect the program, they respect the work ethic, they respect how much football this kid has absorbed during his time there. This is the type of a kid that knows the entire defense, even though he's playing defensive tackle. So now, in chasing Patrick Mahomes around, right? And now it looks like Tyrod Taylor that you're going to have to chase around. Drew Lock, the second-year quarterback. You want to get in the faces of those guys. That makes sense. I thought about linebacker there, but your off-season activity covered a lot of that as well. So that could still be a possibility. And let's face it, there's a corner sitting there. I think that's something that someone would take a good hard look at, especially sitting there at 19. And at what I think is a very good corner draft. It's not wide receiver rich, but the corners are pretty darn good. And sitting at 19, there's a chance that the Raiders could very well do that.
So now let's go on to this 12th pick. You have us going with CeeDee Lamb. What do you see in him that separates him from everyone else? Not just to be able to justify him going not just in the first round, but for the number 12 pick.
He's a touchdown maker, Marcel. And watching the Raiders last year, be in the position you were into December with still battling for a potential playoff spot, but going up and down the field on offense and not ringing the bell. And that was a big part of what I was looking at. Who's going to take that catch and turn it into more? Lamb, when he catches the football, he finds ways to make people miss in the open field. There's extra yardage to be gained, and that nose for the end zone can't be turned down. I think he rang the bell 17 times in the course of it. So when you look at it in total, it's a sliver's difference. And if you ask 10 of us who are evaluating, you might get 10 different answers, all right? Or you might get 3 for this guy, 3 for that guy, 3 for that guy. It's that close with the receivers. I'm just a big fan of Lamb's. And the last thing I'll say is, as you said, I think your point is really well taken. It's hard to evaluate receivers. Yeah. You don't know what they were doing in certain cases, how the school was doing stuff. But the way the NFL has gone, where we're now meeting the college kids halfway. Because, Marcel, when you broke in, I'm betting at some point some coach said to you, now, Marcel, we don't do that here in the NFL, man. That's college stuff.
Absolutely.
Nowadays, that college stuff we're seeing on the field. So it's not rejected out of hand now. Now they say, okay, what can we do to okay. And so CD bringing those talents in, he'll learn the pro way as well. Now you get the best of both worlds. He finds open spaces. If the quarterback finds him, he then takes it and finds the end zone.
Charles, we appreciate you coming on with us, spending some time and giving us your expert knowledge today.
Thank you again very much. I appreciate it.
Now we introduce, and joining our show, a man that really needs no introduction, legendary Raider Charles Woodson. Charles, thank you so much for taking the time. It's great to see your smiling face.
Yeah, well, you know, we don't have nothing but time right now, so I'm glad to be on with you guys.
Well, speaking of having nothing but time, I have an empty wine glass, and I think you could actually help me with that. Business must be doing pretty well over at your winery.
Yeah, it is. Certain aspects of it, you know, everything kind of changes a little bit now with the social distancing and people not being able to travel. So a lot of things are happening online now. So, you know, online sales, of course, are up. As far as retail is doing well. On premise, of course, is stagnant because, you know, people can't go into the restaurants and order wine and that sort of thing. So, you know, during this time, everybody has to kind of adapt to what's going on. And we've been able to do that.
Since you know a thing or two about the perfect pairing, why don't we switch gears and look at the upcoming draft for the Raiders, looking at number 12 and 19. Who are you eyeing? What do you like for this team?
You know, I'm right there with the consensus for, you know, especially that first pick. And that's one of the two wide receivers, depending, you know, who's there, Judy or Lamb. I think you watch those two guys play the game of football. You know, different styles. You know, it really kind of reminds me of Amari Cooper and I think it was White out of West Virginia a couple of years ago. Cooper, very polished, great routes, kind of more of a finesse guy. And White was a bigger, more powerful guy. And I think that's the way these guys kind of match up with Lamb and Judy. Judy is, man, polished, you know, smooth route runner, great out of his breaks, you know, great after the catch. And Lamb is also great after the catch, but bigger body. Not as polished, I don't think, as far as routes are concerned. But he's a guy, you get the ball into his hands, you know, he definitely knows what to do with it. So I would be happy with one of those two guys in that first pick to give Carr another weapon out there. And then after that, you know, defense for me. You know, anytime you can go into the draft and get somebody on the defensive side of the ball. So whatever defensive guy is going to be around, one of the top guys with that second pick, I'm going defense with the second.
I'm gonna tell you, Wood. Not just being an ex-teammate, but also a good friend of mine. I'm surprised to hear you talking about going offense with the number 12 pick, our first draft pick in this draft, going offense. You would?
I know it, right? But you know, when you see the type of talent, you know, that these guys have, and you understand that, look, you know, make no mistake about it, man. It's about putting points on the board. You got to be able to get the ball down the field, man, and you got to be able to have a guy that can go out there and make plays when he doesn't have the ball. And that means, you know, attracting attention to himself. And I think both of these guys would demand attention from opposing defenses where it may open it up for someone else. You know, I look at young Josh Jacobs, and when you can start taking people out of the box, Marcel, you know, when you got people out of that box, man, and it opens up things for that running game. So, you know, when you start adding pieces, you know, to your team, it starts opening other things up. So it's not just about drafting one of those big guys and then trying to get the ball to them all the time. It's about, okay, we got a stud on the outside. Now, because this guy is attracting so much attention, which other guys are going to step up? And then you talk about our tight end, Waller. Wow, is that guy a stud? Now you bring me another weapon on that side of the ball that can open up things for him. I mean, this dude, man, is one of the most dynamic tight ends in all of football. Yeah. And the more you can get him single covered up, split him out wide and put him on a linebacker or a safety, big things will happen for this offense, and Derek Carr will definitely be pleased with that.
Charles, why do you think it's so difficult to find a cornerback these days?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know that it's difficult. I just think the game's changed so much. You know, even from when I came into the league, it's such a passing game now. And it's not about really having one guy on that side of the ball. You got to have multiple guys because when you look at every offense nowadays, they're not coming out with 21 personnel, 2 wide receivers. They're coming out 3, 4, and 5 wide receivers. It's so funny because I think back to the time when Spurrier tried to come into the league with the 5 wides, and people were like, oh, he's never going to be able to do that. And it didn't work for him, but he was foreshadowing, what's happening now, bringing that college game to the NFL game. So it's not about finding that you can't find one good corner, because you can find good corners. But, man, you got to have 3, 4 corners to go out there and compete with these offenses that are putting all of these weapons on the field at the same time.
This Last Dance Michael Jordan documentary, Charles has a lot of those personality traits where he just telling everybody they are soft right now. I'll tell you what. They don't make them like you no more, Wood.
No, man. And, man, I thoroughly enjoyed, those first couple episodes of The Last Dance, man. Really – you know how it is when you see or hear certain things, it takes you back to a certain time, and it takes you back to those times, to those early Bulls, man, and watching Jordan and his greatness and just, how much of the attention of the whole world, man, that he garnered, during his playing days. And he was tough, man. He wanted to win. And Marcel, man, I mean, that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to win. I didn't want to have to say a whole lot. I just wanted to go out there and work, man, and I wanted to win. And when you saw that kind of come through in this documentary with Jordan, is that no matter what was going on around him, you talk about that last season when they were all together and Scotty was sitting out, and Scotty wanted more money. It didn't matter. No matter what was going on, man, Jordan was trying to get to the ring, man. It didn't matter, man. So, absolutely, as a player, that's what I try to bring to the table, man, no matter what was going on around me in my life or on the team, man. When it came around to getting on the football field and trying to perform and try to win games, man, that's all I cared about.
Charles Woodson, stay safe and healthy. It was great to catch up with you.
The next time we will make sure, the next time we talk, we'll make sure you'll have intercept in your glass, I'll have intercept in mine, and we'll cheers and we'll do it the right way.
This segment has been brought to you by Allegiant, the official domestic airline of the Las Vegas Raiders. Welcome back to the Raiders 2020 Draft Special. For all things silver and black, make sure you follow us on our digital platforms, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, Raiders.com. Gentlemen, here we are making the final push to the draft. Lincoln, what's the first thing that comes to mind? What are you going to be focusing on the most?
Well, the fact that the Raiders are going to have to address their most glaring needs, probably wide receiver, secondary, but they're adding depth. They've been aggressive in free agency so far, Nicole and Marcel, and I'm interested to see how they're going to add to this team and what they're going to do. 2 first-round picks, 3 third-round picks, no second-round pick. Might be making some changes, so we'll see.
Marcel, what comes to your mind?
Well, listen, Lincoln, Nicole, we have been top to bottom on this draft with all these different scenarios, but I think it comes down to this. Mike Mayock and Jon Gruden are 2 very aggressive individuals, and they are going to try to do everything they can to get the most value out of every single one of their picks. And I'm interested to see how it all unfolds.
Well, and not just how it's going to unfold, whether they move up or down, but how it's going to unfold when it comes to the first ever virtual draft for the NFL. Right now, we're seeing on social media various war rooms, and it's a one-man war room. So it's going to be very interesting to see how Mike Mayock, Jon Gruden, and company all communicate with one another. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me on this show, the Raiders 2020 Draft Special presented by Modelo. And thank you to all of our special guests. Of course, thank you to all of our viewers. Stay safe and healthy, and go Raiders.